Thursday, February 5, 2026. Is a new program on leadership television inside Nigeria. Inside Nigeria is a breakfast show where we review front headline stories of some select newspapers and also give discussions on trendy issues. My name is Winifred Ugbebo, your host on the program. And of course, we have newspapers lined up for review this Thursday. And of course, what is the topical discussion or what is dominating the covers today is on the Senate's rejection of mandatory e-transmission of election results. Of course, leadership is leading the pack for our review this Thursday. Leadership has just one single story cover, and that is Senate rejects mandatory e-transmission of election results. Of course, to most Nigerians, they are not surprised by this news going by the foot dragging of the Senate over time over this electoral bill amendment. Initially, they went on a long recess, and when they came back, they set up a committee, and the committee did not meet. So, for most Nigerians, like I said, this news is no surprise to them. Anyway, let's see some excerpts from that leading story. Senate rejects mandatory e-transmission of election results. The Senate yesterday rejected a proposed amendment to Clause 60, Subsection 3 of the Electoral Act 2022, which sought to make the electronic transmission of election results mandatory. The Senate's rejection of the amendment to the electoral law has sparked criticisms from the opposition and civil society organizations who accuse the upper chamber of attempting to undermine the credibility of the 2027 elections. Besides the transmission clause, the Senate also rejected a proposed 10-year jail term for buyers and sellers of permanent voter cards (PVCs) under Clause 22, opting instead to retain a 2-year imprisonment term while increasing the fine from 82 million naira to 85 to from 2 million naira to 5 million naira. These were the high points of the Senate passage of the Electoral Act 2022, Repeal and Reenactment Amendment Bill 2026 through third reading. The rejected provision would have required presiding officers of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to electronically transmit results from each polling unit to the IREP portal in real time after the prescribed form E, C, and A have been signed and stamped by the presiding officer and countersigned by candidates' agents. Instead, the Senate adopted the existing provision of the Electoral Act, which states that the presiding officer shall transfer the results, including the total number of accredited voters and the results of the ballot, in a manner as prescribed by the Commission. Of course, this clause, the appeal and amendment sought to remove, not giving the alternative to the Commission. The House of Representatives had earlier amended the clause providing for mandatory transmission of election results. The e-transmission of results was a contentious issue in the 2023 presidential election, where results from polling units stopped being uploaded due to what the INEC called a technical glitch. We just took some excerpts from the leading story on Leadership newspaper today, as well as other papers we have for review in this program this Thursday. Some of the national papers on Senate rejects mandatory e-transmission of election results. From the cover, we move to page 3 of the paper where we have our stand. Today's stand is on development commissions as paper tiger is a question posed by our stand today. Development commissions as paper tiger. And of course, the development commissions are now regional. We have the Northeast, we have the North Central, we have the Northwest, we have the South-South, we have the Southwest, we have the Southeast. All these are regional development commissions. And that is a question as today's stand is asking, are they paper tiger? You have to read more, log into the website of Leadership to find out what the development commissions are all about. From page 3 of the paper, we move to the back page, the last page to be reviewed on Leadership from Leadership newspaper. The back page today, we have guest column with Glenn Weiler and Grant Bybee. Africa's critical minerals are a huge economic opportunity. Guest column today, Africa's critical minerals are a huge economic opportunity. We'll take some quotes from that column. Africa holds large reserves of these critical minerals, yet they are mostly exported as raw materials, returning as expensive green technologies made in factories overseas. Africa is home to large reserves of critical minerals. The continent has 55% of the world's cobalt deposit. It houses 47.5% of all manganese globally and 21.6% of natural graphite. Quotes from today's guest column: Africa's critical minerals are a huge economic opportunity. Before we leave the back page, we visit Ghana Must Go. Why FIFA gave Trump Peace Prize, Infantino, and of course, Ghana replied, fear of bullying. It's on that human note we conclude review of Leadership newspaper this Thursday. For more, log into the website of Leadership newspaper. From Leadership, we heads up to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is the Daily Times. Daily Times is also like Leadership before it, talking about electoral bill. Senate rejects mandatory e-transmission of results to IREV. Bandits attack, death toll rises to 40. Soldiers, forest guards take over Kwara communities. Insecurity, U.S. deploys military personnel to Nigeria. Nigeria demands concrete action from oil majors as 2.5 million barrel per day output target looms. Nigeria demands concrete action from oil majors as 2.5 million barrel per day output target looms. These are stories gracing the cover of the Daily Times newspaper this Thursday. For more, log into the website of the Daily Times. We move to the next paper we have on our lineup this Thursday, and of course, that paper is the Daily Independent. Daily Independent's leading story says, still on electoral bill, 2027 election, outrage as Senate rejects real-time e-transmission of results, passes long-awaited Electoral Act Amendment B, denies court power to declare runners up winners, reduces notice of poll publication from 360 to 180 days. Article PDP Yabagi Okore orders berate upper chamber. The story continues on page 29 of Daily Independent. 2027 election, outrage as Senate rejects real-time e-transmission of results. And of course, we have long kickers beneath that leading story. Nigeria launches new cancer control plan, expands free screening nationwide. That story continues on page 7 of Daily Independent. And good news, of course, there are reports of new technologies in cancer screening and cancer treatment. We actually heard from the world's richest Elon Musk recently on the new treatment, cancer treatment. Nigeria launches new cancer control plan, expands free screening nationwide. Page 7. Dangote refinery not importing finished products, coming from CEO. 2027 politics won't affect my job as FCT Minister, Wike. INEC finalizes timetable for 2027 general election. Fiber vandalism threatens national broadband drive. Records only 70,000 cases in 3 years. Former Benue Governor Suswam quits PDP, and atop the masthead of Daily Independent, political pressure kept refineries running despite losses, coming from Ojulari, the NNPC CEO. Political pressure kept refineries running despite losses. Concedes NNPC cannot run refineries profitably. Lastly, on the cover of Daily Independent, federal government unveils 25-year plan to unlock Southeast potential, says region center pillar of Nigeria's economic future. And it's on that note we conclude review of front headline stories on Daily Independent this Thursday. For more, don't forget to log into the website of Daily Independent. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup this Thursday. Incidentally, that's the last paper we have for review, and that is The Punch. The Punch says Kwara massacre. Federal government faces heat as 100 fear dead. 70 victims buried in mass grave. Tinubu deploys troops. Governor Saraki mourn. Survivors recount ordeal. The story is on page 2 of The Punch. Kwara massacre. Federal government faces heat as 100 feared dead. 70 victims buried in mass grave. Tinubu deploys troops. Governor Saraki mourn. Survivors recount ordeal. Beside the masthead of the Punch, delayed Electoral Act amendments could disrupt 2027 poll timetable coming from INEC. Desani trial, UK contractor details luxury property on paid bills. Desani trial, UK contractor details luxury property on paid bills. The story continues on page 20 of the Punch. And with that, we conclude review of front headline stories on the Punch newspaper this Thursday. For more, don't forget to log into the website of the Punch newspaper. Well, viewers, this is as much as we can take on today's show, Inside Nigeria, your breakfast show. Tomorrow, Friday, is another day for another fresh edition of the program. My name is Winifred Webo. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.